Welcome back to Art Unscripted, where we explore the world of art through conversations with people shaping how we see, experience, and live with it. I am 𝙤𝙤𝙪𝙚, and thank you so much for joining us today.
We are drawn by a sense of beauty. We are drawn to things that are beautiful, that are creative. And art has to bring that in. Otherwise, in our daily lives, we're swamped by the mundane.
Today's episode is a special one, not just because of who's joining us, but because of the questions we'll be asking. What happens when a business leader, someone who pioneered the back office industry in India, brings art into a space devoted to science, technology, and innovation? Our guest today is Pramod Bhasin, a man who truly wears many hats. You likely know him as the founder of Genpact, the visionary who helped put India on the global map for business process outsourcing. He's been recognized with accolades like the IT Man of the Year, amongst many others. But what you may not know is that Pramod is also an art collector, and more recently a passionate advocate for making art accessible, especially to those who may never have imagined it as a part of their world. Through his support, Plaksha University, a STEM-focused institution, is now home to an ambitious and inspiring art initiative. Pramod, thank you for being here, and I'm excited about having this conversation with you.
Gayatri, thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure. We've known each other for a long time through the art world and through all the collections you've had and from which I've benefited in many, many ways at home and at workplaces. So really love being here. Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us.
The first piece of art I collected was pure happenstance. And I think these things are important. I had a friend who worked at the Tate Gallery in London. And I went there and I bought this hand sketch of an eland, which still hangs in the Tate Gallery. That's it. So the plastic, it was on a piece of plastic board. It was just a hand sketch. And I remember, because I used to go there from time to time, thinking, what a piece of art, what a piece of beauty this was in its utter simplicity. But it captured the form and the strength of the eland perfectly. And I think that's where it started, a fascination of how can someone be so creative as to come up with something like this, just so evocative, so creative, so strong. I think from there it's progressed over the years. If you go to Florence and you see David, it's like the most incredible piece of sculpture I have ever seen in the world. I mean, he's talking to you, right?
There's a lot more than just the detail.
Right. It's vibrant, it's alive, he's talking to you, he's looking at you. I mean, it's just, how do you do that with a big fat lump of marble, So I think it started with that kind of a fascination. Couldn't afford much for many, many years. So art became a series of prints, that you would buy, or postcards that you would buy from these galleries, the big ones, all the big ones. And you got some great posters.
You do. And they have lovely museum shops,
Lovely museum shops. So I started decorating my home in London and the bathrooms with these postcards everywhere, right? Kandinsky and this and that and all kinds of zany stuff. And I think it brought me a lot of joy and peace to just sit there and look at the diversity of the art at prices I could afford, which was the price of a postcard. So that's where it kind of started. And I think it really gave me a sense of both beauty and joy. Brought a lot of joy.
So how has your relationship with art changed over time? Do you find yourself drawn to a certain kind of artists and the act of collecting taught you something about yourself.
Yeah.
Quite often, it's quite introspective.
It is. It's entirely introspective, you know. The artist I've loved the most in my life is Edward Hopper. So if you look at his paintings of petrol pumps or nighthawks, which is my favorite, it is. You know, nighthawks is this painting of these solitary people sitting at a bar. In all my travels over 40 years, I've done that endless number of times. Sat at some strange bar in some strange city, over a glass of wine or a glass of whiskey, contemplating life. So it's the perfect capture. And you're right, you realize what you like and why you like it, because in some sense it represents a part of your own experience. And so, you know, as we go going through the humdrum of life and building businesses and all of that, this became a fantastic escape valve for me to just go and sit somewhere and look at something which was really beautifully done. And it didn't have to be, one of the things I did love is it doesn't have to be original art for me. It doesn't have to be a new piece of work. A poster, a Monet poster of lilies is mind-bogglingly beautiful, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to own it to love it and appreciate it. And that is something I began to... Architecture along with that, by the way. You know, architecture is such a unique...
considered a form of art by some.
It should be.
Yeah.
It should be. It should
Not enough here, but...
Not enough. Not enough here. You know, my daughter's in Baku right now. And she sent me a picture of this this lady's museum that she's done there.
𝙤𝙤.
Right? It is unbelievably stunning.
Yes, I've seen photographs of it, and I would love to kind of go and see it.
Yes.
Just beautiful forms.
Beautiful form. And again, one of the things actually, before any of this, by the way, in school, I remember seeing a picture of falling water. Frank Lloyd Wright's building in Pennsylvania. And without a moment's hesitation, I thought this was the most beautiful building I'd ever seen. You know, just in the way it blends in, the way it works with the water, the way it doesn't interfere but adds to the landscape. It just told me that there's a beauty worth looking for.
Yeah, but you know, I also wonder why we don't do more of that, because any person who enters these spaces, they change before they enter that space.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
you can't, I mean, even if you had to go for a meeting or you were extremely, if you had a terrible day and you walk into that building, you cannot be angry.
No.
You know, it just calms you. And
I think, guys, a lot of it is lack of exposure. So later on, we'll talk about why I wanted to make art more accessible, is because I think in India, there is very little exposure to art at any stage of our lives. I don't remember, I don't know if you remember in school, apart from your art class, which was a fiddling around art class, you didn't get to see much art.
I think I see that difference, because I don't think kids go to museums enough. They don't have teachers who kind of take them through. But if you go to MoMA, you know, if you go to Tate, you'd always see, you know, on a weekday, you'd see some teacher taking kids and talking about an exhibition, you know, and they're little kids, you know, they're 7, 8, they're being introduced to
That's
art
right.
at that stage.
That's
and it's definitely is going to make a huge difference.
It's going to make a huge difference. And we weren't exposed. I just happened to be exposed because, you know, this lady friend of mine used to say, you know,
Come go see some art, yeah.
Learn something. Don't try not go and watch another Western movie. Learn something. So I said, okay, all right, what the hell.
I got exposed because my mother was in art. Otherwise, maybe, you know, again, that love wouldn't have been there.
That love wouldn't have been there. So I think exposure and showing people, that's why I think what you're doing, I love here, what Kiran is doing, and its expanse is wonderful.
I know, that's new. We're all looking forward to the new museum.
Yes, we are. Aren't we all waiting for that?
So you've spoken about value of creativity and intuition in leadership. Do you see a connection between collecting art and building companies?
I'm not sure I see it between collecting art, because I don't really think of myself as a collector. I buy art because I like it. I don't go at it with the mentality of saying I want to build a collection. I go at it with the mentality of saying I like it and it'll be nice to look at it. And that's why I get it, But certainly in building companies, there has to be a very soft power element that you have to bring into companies. Now, most people who've known me at Genpact would dispute that. I don't think they would recognize that sentence. But actually, it's true. And recognize it or not, in my mind at least, there was a methodology to it and a way of thinking about how do people live, how do they spend their time, how do they enjoy their work. We brought in, at our annual events, we brought in a lot of music so that people got to classical music, classical dance, rock music, live singers, brought it all together so people could get a sense for all kinds of different things. Even at our annual meetings, guys, we would have stalls outside the hall or wherever we fought or wherever we're doing it, of award-winning handicrafts people who could display their art. It could be a shawl, it could be a kurta, it could be shoes, it could be slippers, it could be someone playing a bansuri. But it was very, very, very beautiful way of showing people this also exists in their lives. While we'll go into the halls and talk about work and performance, it added a dimension of joy into our lives, which I think is absolutely important. It's why maybe why we watch some kinds of movies, maybe why we go up to the hills to look at the landscape, maybe why we visit other countries, to look at the architecture. It's a very essential part of our life, and yet I think in India we don't have enough of it. Really don't.
We don't. Definitely we don't. Not even enough public art.
No.
When you look at it.
No, you don't see it. You don't see it, Of course, we don't have the money that Princeton University has, but if you walk around the campus of Princeton University, you've got Henry Moore sculptures, you've got all kinds of art on display. Every student is there, is walking past it.
Yeah. I mean, if you walk on some of the streets of London,
yes,
unexpectedly you'll see a massive sculpture.
Yes. Yeah.
And these are like not even the regular Oxford Street. It's other streets of London.
If you walk through the parks, right,
yeah,
you'll see all kinds of stuff being displayed or experiments. Remember in New York they had these experiments with all these flags at one time? Over many kilometers, all these flags fluttering away, and it was just a work of art put together, a few artists, and it was in Central Park for many weeks. It was a real joy to walk amongst them. If you go to the museums, they're full. If they have new exhibitions, there's lines outside.
I always pick a weekday.
That's right. You can't go on a weekend, it's too crowded. But all of that is happening, being curated, I regret we don't do enough.
So I think it's changing. It's getting a little more active, but there's still a lot to be done.
It's changing very slowly. It almost needs, our arts and culture, government departments and others almost need to push this home very far. We have fantastic destinations, architecture, old sites, etc., that are worth seeing.
So you feel more maybe curriculum changes in primary school?
curriculum change in primary school, take children out to, as you said, the art classes, show them sense of history, show them, talk about architecture. It's going to go over the heads of most 7, 8-year-olds, but some bit of it imbibes. Some bit of it, you look at it and say, wow, that is really, really interesting. And, and these things stay with you for a very long time. Certainly in college, we could do that, far better. Colleges have a lot more money. You could certainly do that in campuses which have a lot more room. You could encourage it, not just amongst your students, but encourage other people to come in and interact with the students. I mean, there's so many things you could do, which would be interesting.
True. I mean, your journey has moved from personally picking up art to now looking at how you can sponsor art in, institutions and colleges.
Yes.
Has anything changed in terms of how you look at art, in terms of choosing art for a public space versus a home? Is there something, is there a difference in how you look at it when you're looking at art for an institution?
Very much so, I think. For a home, I may look for something that is visually and personally appealing to me for a particular reason, or because I like the shape, or like the form, or like what's gone into it. Certainly in a public space like Plaksha University, where we are putting in, with your help, a lot of art, we need to put in a lot more. It was more a sense of giving people an exposure to art, but also making them think. And I think, you helped with that a lot, which is to say, as we build an engineering college, to build more stuff, do we think about the environment adequately? Do we think about waste adequately? Do we think about different representations, different ways of building something? Do we think adequately about building products that are beautifully designed? It takes a Steve Jobs to build a phone, which now everybody copies, right?
Yeah.
Before that, we had the clunky things and we dealt with it, right? Now, if you look at the packaging of anything, it's just reformed completely. I was with, in Sweden, Gayatri, I was with the person who's the founder of and the maker of these Marshall speakers.
Oh, amazing.
Right? Look at how we love it. And I talked to him, he's a mad Viking, a big bearded guy. Exactly. If you think about a Viking, that's him. Crazy guy, drinks like a fish, all of that, dances. And I asked him, he said, look, I looked at speakers, I looked at Bluetooth speakers, I said, they were so boring. And he just played with design.
Yeah, it was as, technologically it's as, good as any speaker, but it had that little bit of retro, old, yet new look.
Yeah.
It is
so if you're
perfect.
Sitting there on a bench with 10 others, you're going to go for that.
Yeah, and it's different.
So again, you learn that design makes such a huge difference. And I wanted to bring that to our students. One of the criticisms I've heard about our engineering students from India is that their soft skills are particularly lacking in terms of thinking about customer interface, customer usage, thinking about building something that customers really love. So I'm hoping that the art makes people think about that all the time, because it's in their face, they're walking alongside it. And so when they're designing something, put that little extra effort in to make it more beautiful. Why not?
And I think art also has that ability to make you think a little out of the box.
100%. Absolutely. And I should have said that. Absolutely. It's a different world, right? It's a different way of thinking about things, of looking at the world around us. And that's what is provocative. And then you say, wow, I've seen the same thing 100 times, and here's someone's take on it, which is very different. If it opens your mind like that, That's all we wanted.
That's it, yeah. The next question was about Plaksha University and why you felt tech and science-led university should engage with art. I think you've more or less answered that. Is there anything else you wanted to kind of
On
add
Plaksha,
to
I
it?
would. On students, etc., I would. I think I'm also moving away from the concept, honestly, of owning art that much. And I've talked to you about that. But
Yes.
so, yes, I've collected art, I've got some nice pieces. Not like I have an overflowing bundle of art, but I've got some very good stuff at home. But there's a part of my brain now saying, we put it somewhere where 5,000 people look at it and appreciate it. And I think that's
The big
changing
change.
my mind. Of saying, yes, I'll buy it, but let me not buy it for myself. Let me put it somewhere where a lot of students look at it and some will swear at it and some will say, "Kya hai?" As you can imagine. Right? I have a beautiful one of crows, if you remember about crows. I've got a beautiful Yusuf Arakal. I can imagine a lot of students looking at it and say, "Kya kawe laga ke baith gaye hain?" But the way the crows are, and I've bought one of an owl, the way the crows are, the way the 𝙤𝙤𝙪𝙡 works, etc. Some people will love some of the color. Some others will look at it and say, "Kya hai?" But that's the point, is that you listen to all of them and and let them have their say. It's quite wonderful.
So, there's been quite a few installations already in Plaksha, and looking at how students are responding, what do you think? Is there something that kind of you feel is there installation that is most impactful?
I haven't done enough of a feedback from them. I haven't got enough of that. Certainly what, was painted on the walls of the cafeteria is very evocative. I think people love that. It's all over, right? It's fantastic. Mm-hmm. The doors are always appreciated by everyone. Parents, students, everyone who walks past it.
So scale definitely has impact.
Scale, but no, I think the
form
doors
also,
themselves,
yeah,
the form
stunning work,
has an
yeah.
impact, right? Because it's a lot of people, a university is meant to open doors for you. So to that extent, it connects very well.
It does.
Right. And so, in a very simplistic manner, it works extremely well. I think there's a lot more to the doors in my mind than perhaps just opening of doors, but I think those come through. The TV thing that you've done, the digital TV which replay, a lot of people watch that all the time and say, yeah. So I think people do enjoy that, the concrete pouring out, the houses pouring out of the tasla. Looks lovely. Some of the others, probably people look at it and say, "Ye kya hai?"
True.
And that's
But
okay.
that's it. I mean, the greatest thing about art is that there's going to be a personal choice. You're going to like one more than the other, and that reflects what you see as a person.
Absolutely.
And that we respect the most. Everyone's an individual.
And also, if they hear each other talk about it, it makes a difference. For me, that's been a great influence on my life, is to hear other people talk about art that I haven't liked, and then suddenly realize, "Ooh, okay, fair enough." I would like to put a lot more art at Plaksha, And again, I don't want to necessarily go for very expansive art, well-known artists, expensive art. I want art that people relate to, people see every day. I want the students to know this is a profession.
And also, I think when you look at younger artists, when you look at contemporary art, their conversation and the expression is about our lived experiences, our current lived experiences. So you'll see the things that they talk about are things and issues that we face today. So I think it becomes more relevant also to have young artists
Absolutely.
in the campus.
Absolutely. And their view of our world, their view of their world. I also, do it because to be honest, I think people need to know that there are people out there in the world who are committed enough to art to live a very simple life before they make it. Only very few make it.
True.
And yet they have the courage to live with their conviction and a joy of their work, of their artistry themselves. It's a tough life.
It is, yeah.
Right? It's not like you make a lot of money. Art is incredibly cheap in India. Everybody seems to go for the big names, and which is sad. But I do want these people to look at artists and say, that's the life they chose. And it's quite remarkable that some people can choose a life which is so committed to what they believe in, as opposed to others who are becoming engineers or accountants like me, who are just going to enter a workplace and we carry on. And
yeah,
it's not like we
step
believe
step,
in business or something.
So do you think we sometimes underestimate the role of creativity and innovation?
100%. Not just sometimes, pretty much all the time. I think if we were taught how to be more creative, innovative, I think we'd build better products, we'll be more imaginative, we'd think out of the box. There's a lot of other things that would happen if we could encourage that across the board.
There'd be a lot more, I think, interesting products and a lot more innovation coming from this.
Yes, absolutely. And I know you love it, but men in particular are very uncreative, I find. I know you'll be very happy that I said that.
I just smiled.
Yes.
I didn't say anything else.
But a lot of men I meet are particularly,
So
you'll wear orange, I'll wear white,
Yeah. I wanted to talk a little more about making art more accessible. I mean, your journey seems to be like from, collecting art to now looking at sharing it, a broader kind of vision for philanthropy. So I wanted to kind of talk about this journey.
Yeah.
And you've, I think, started it off by saying that you no longer like collecting for yourself and you really like, putting art there for people. But when did that change and why do you think it changed?
It started changing 5 or 6 years ago. Once I'd done with Genpact and with God's grace I'd made some money. And it also comes at a certain age that you start thinking about, why do I own all this shit? You really start. When I have antique carpets, paintings.
Collect.
Who's interested in this stuff, right? And earlier, maybe my family members might have been, but they are also getting older. If I ask them, they don't want it. I said, you do something. So I think the concept of collecting and owning itself, everything, just for your own eyes is I find it now very strange, to be honest with you. I find the whole concept that somebody would pay millions of dollars for a painting and then put it only in their living room or put it in their cellar, bizarre. Just why would you take a great work of art and put it away so that you can say you own it? It's very strange behavior. It suggests an absorption with yourself at a level that I find hard to understand, certainly. So it started from there of saying, now what else can we do? And saying that I didn't see enough people, Gayatri, in India talking about art at all.
Yeah.
I'm no expert.
Especially I think when you started Plaksha, putting art in Plaksha, it was unheard of literally to have art in a university as a plan.
Right. And so, what I did was, I was going to give Plaksha money, and I said, no, I won't give you that money. And I gave them some money. I said, this money will go only towards art, because I was worried that they'll absorb it to put another dormitory in.
Yeah. It would have happened.
Or put a classroom in. I said, no. It wasn't that expensive to put a classroom in, but I said, you're not going to buy a few more benches as a result. This will only buy art, which will go into the campus. As long as you're okay with that, we'll do it. So I think that's when it started hitting home that there is no art on campus. The campus looks nice, but if we want to make it, you also have to think about this 50 years out. Yeah. What does the campus look like 50 years out? What do the trees look like? What does the landscaping look like? What does the stone look like? Very importantly, what does the art look like? Which is why I'm very interested in putting more art out there, which then people begin to recognize, which creates a story, which builds history. That's how you build history, right? And so I thought, while everybody else is focusing on curriculum, science, engineering, artificial intelligence, lots of things, perhaps what I could do best with my limited knowledge of art, but with help from people like you, is actually put that on the ground. So now my aim is, can we get some works of art, at the entrance, perhaps into other colleges, what else can we do? If I go to 𝙨𝙗 College, for instance, my old alumni, it's a beautiful building. The old North Delhi campuses are really quite lovely. They have oodles of space, nice corridors, lots of areas. No art. They could have lots of money. No art.
I had the same, I had a conversation when I went back to Stephen's, and they were like, yes, we'd love to.
Yes.
But how do we fund it?
Yes. The funding is easy, Gayatri. The
someone
alumni of these colleges have enough money, and
But then the initiative or the want should be enough to...
That's right.
Say, okay, I want to raise money for a sculpture.
That's right.
So, you've worked across continents, and what do you think is holding back this wider access to art in India?
Honestly, it's a lack of exposure. People just don't see it. We don't see it often enough walking down the street. You don't see it in your school. You don't see it in your college. Your teachers aren't talking about it. Your family isn't talking about it. Where do you come into contact with it? And you don't think about it at all, because you don't think about it in all its forms of sculpture and paintings and work and woodwork and craft and architecture. And if you don't think about it enough, it'll become something you do as the right thing to do when you've made a lot of money.
So it becomes something more elitist rather than something that is for everyone.
Correct.
Which is exactly what art isn't. It is, art is about...
It isn't meant to be, right?
Yeah, it's not meant to be.
But in fact, it has become more elitist. It has become more for collectors. It has become more for people who are wealthy to say, look, I can afford this piece of art. Rather than someone saying, I love art because it's so beautiful. I was just looking around at home. There are pieces of art I will give away now, and I was being asked what will I replace it with, and I think I'm going to replace it with posters, from the museums, which I can frame, which are...
I also have a collection.
Right. Now I'm waiting to go back to MoMA and a few places and buy these posters. They're beautiful.
I love the museum shop.
Right.
So what role do you think business leaders can play in making art more inclusive and accessible? The government at the moment doesn't do that much.
No.
So what do we,
I think I wish business leaders could think about introducing art or creativity in its various forms into how we do our business. Whether you're making a new product, whether it's the packaging, whether it's the way you design the office, whether it's the way you create atmospheres for people to work in. You know, there's so many ways in which you can bring it in where it touches everyone. Don't have to spend a lot of money on it. I always think when I'm walking around Paris or London or somewhere that they built all these buildings with all these gargoyles somewhere and sculptures somewhere on the building, some extra
it's just
texture, design. They could have built a glass building with nothing on it. So why didn't they? You know, they took the time and effort to build something more beautiful. And I just think businesses and offices must think about that. What is the environment in which your employees are working? How boring can you make it? Or how attractive for everybody to come in and say, I love working in this very beautiful space. Yeah.
We recently did the BCG office in Bombay. And what was amazing was that we kind of had that ability to look at the values of BCG and bring that through the art.
Wonderful.
And the feedback we're getting is that employees love it. They're very proud of that office.
Yeah.
And the art plays quite an important role in that space.
Yeah.
And that's lovely to hear. So what do you think corporate India is beginning to see the value of engaging with art?
I don't think so. I don't really hear it. It's so isolated.
Few and far between.
Yeah, that's right. Exceptions prove the rule, right? It's really so few and far. I think even in design of offices, people aren't thinking sufficiently about design and how do you make it more beautiful and create an environment where people love coming to work. We get either tied down by cost per square foot or functionality and utility, as opposed to saying leave 10% for art, for creativity, to make it more beautiful. We're having a little bit of fun nowadays because at Plaksha we're designing the main cafeteria right now. So finally, at least we've got tiny bit of extra money. So we're going to make it an Art Deco diner.
How lovely.
Right?
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
I hope students will enjoy it. It'll be nice. There's a Brooklyn diner in New York. I don't know if you've been there. It's great fun.
I mean, I haven't been
No,
to
these
that
are
one.
iconic diners in the design and shape. Very retro, very old style, very Art Deco stuff. So we're going to do that. Great fun. And I think students, I hope, will love it. They love being there and the atmosphere and the environment it creates. It's like we're trying on the landscaping side to create areas where you can have outdoor classrooms, right? Every college in North Delhi campus could do that.
Yeah.
Have outdoor classrooms, sit under a mango tree. Be very nice. But I don't know why people don't do it.
We used to do that in our school, but in Darjeeling.
Right.
There used to be outdoor, when the sun was out, we'd go out and, have a...
Yeah. In winter here in Delhi for 3 months, you could do your outdoor classes under a tree and you could put Wi-Fi and everything there so that you can have lectures and be stunning. Stunning.
So if you had to look at the one work in your collection that is really, really close to your heart, one that you'd never part with, especially when you're parting with a lot of what you have, is there that one thing that you'd say, no, that's too special for me to...
I think there are a couple. There are a couple at least. One is a friend of ours has done this landscape of Mumbai, all the skyscrapers, I find that to be really interesting and very nice. But, for me, there's an owl I have in my bedroom. very ferocious looking owl, which I've got from you, sort of peering out.
I guess it's reflecting something.
Huh? What?
Is it reflecting something?
No. But it's, full of activity and energy, and it's all captured very nicely in that one frame. And so I always look at that and say, again, how do you do that? How do you capture that kind of energy and activity? If you looked at some of the Rembrandts in museums and you look at some of his portraits, the luminosity of those pictures when you see them live is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Amazing.
And you wonder who created that? We went to see the lilies, I think, recently.
Oh, wow. I still haven't seen them in...
Oh, you have to see them in that room at MoMA. And that it's a curved room and it goes around.
I've seen photographs, but it doesn't do justice.
You have to see it in front. It's mind-blowing. The imagination and the artistry of somebody who can paint from there to there, one painting. And it doesn't matter how close you get to it, how far you get to it. It's stunning in every level.
What is your, opinion about Indian art in the global scenario? Is it now, do you think that it's going to grow? Are you going to see more people outside India interested? Of course, we have a large population and it is going to be definitely driven by India. But do you see that we have really come to that point where you're going to see a lot more interest in South Asian art?
Definitely, I think, especially Indian art. I think our art can be phenomenally good. When I look at art galleries in New York or many other places, they have good work, but a lot of the work you have here is better, right? So it's up to us, though, to take it there. It's up to us to take it there. I think the India Art Fair that happens every year is quite a movement in many ways.
And now we have Art Mumbai.
That's right. And the amount of interest that you get there is very encouraging. To get it to the US and other places would be interesting, but it's going to take some risks and it's going to take some marketing. So we have to make that investment. Again, Kiran Nadar doing what she does will make a difference, right? Because people suddenly wake up to what the hell is going on there. That's a huge, huge step forward. But we need that happening across many other areas. Ridiculously, I think if Indian art was accepted there, it'll get accepted more here. I'm sorry, but I know it's true. Right? If there's a couple of pieces of art or artists who get suddenly very popular there,
they do.
All of a sudden, India is going to say, we want some also.
I guess it's like an endorsement in a way. Yeah.
But, we shouldn't need it.
Yeah. So if you had to give one advice to galleries who are promoting Indian art, what would that be?
Ouch, I don't know. I think spending money and time on creating awareness would be a big part. Awareness that there's a lot of artists in India. It's not expensive. It's not an elitist subject. It's a thing of joy. It's something that you can enjoy in every small home. It doesn't have to cost a lot. I think if you can get that message across, you'll get a lot more interest. A lot of people, I think, get scared by thinking that either you must buy art from a painting of a famous artist, which is too expensive, or then how do they pick?
From,
Yeah. And I've seen people...
But which is very simple actually, with a younger artist, follow your heart,
But I've seen people buy some amazing shit. I mean, stuff which you look at and say, where on earth did you pick that up from? So if you don't have any exposure, I think you genuinely have a problem thinking about what to get, and you not quite sure, to be honest, and people make awful choices as well. But I think if you can introduce it to people and talk about competition more openly, more open source.
So I think social media is helping in a way, because there's a lot more information available on social media.
Yes.
Okay, so this is, I promise you, the last one. I mean, you spent, your life building systems, scaling companies, helping shape minds of the future. If you had to leave us with one thought about the role of art in education, leadership, or society, I think we haven't discussed, what would it be?
I'm not sure it would be just one thing, but art can play a defining role in how we interact with society, how we build our businesses, how we build our products, how do we make things work. And I think adding that sense of beauty and creativity to our everyday lives is very important. We don't live to work, we work to live. And adding this element to all our lives brings a new way of thinking, a new joy, a new pleasure, new eyes to our existing surroundings. And I think being able to enjoy that is what I would try and do. It will also improve what we build, how we build it, for whether it's our customers or others, but in terms of its design, it will improve the beauty of our cities, of the wrought iron railings you put around a park.
And these things do make a difference, because I feel that as you walk, and if there's something beautiful, it gives you that chance to pause and look.
Absolutely.
And that just changes your internal orientation.
Yes.
I feel great for mental health.
Yes. Yeah. I think, for instance, sadly, we have no place to walk in our cities.
Yeah.
Right? One of the joys of other cities, the European cities, is as you walk, you see beauty everywhere. The parks are beautifully done, the railings are beautifully done, the benches are beautifully done.
There's so much thought in so many, little things.
That's right. I wish we could bring that into our lives here. It would be phenomenal. Why wouldn't you do it, right? To create something which is long-lasting. One of the things I use at Plaksha all the time, when people start talking to me about costs there, about something that we're dwindling and saying, cost is, I keep reminding them, I said, guys, you're building for 50 years. This needs to be intact 50 years from now. What do you want it to be remembered for? That you chiseled at the cost versus adding that little edge which people look at and say, that made a difference. We are drawn by it. We're not just business people. We're not just machines. We're not just transactional. We are drawn by a sense of beauty. We are drawn to things that are beautiful, that are creative. All of us at varying degrees. And art has to bring that in. Otherwise, in our daily lives, we're swamped by the mundane, you know, and the friction of everyday life. This is the best break you can get.
So thanks so much, Pramod. I think it's really an interesting journey, starting as an individual collector, then looking at, art for a university. And I know, I'm sure there is another step. It's going to be something else.
We'll see.
But it's great that you've chosen art as, an area that you feel, people need exposure to. And I think it reminds us that art is, something we live with, we grow with, and it's worth sharing.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. It's worth sharing. And I think that will be the final phase, is that sharing of my art.
yes.
Because I do think it's a shame. I travel so much. My family lives elsewhere.
Yeah, lend it
We'll
to
try that.
schools, institutions,
Right.
Anywhere educational.
Anyway.
It could be really interesting.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, and it's really been nice. Thank you for taking the time to be here, and happy collecting and happy sharing.
Thank you, Gayatri.